OpenAI's new Canvas feature has just made coding really accessible to everyone. So today we're going to be exploring the features of Canvas so that we can understand why I think it's better than a lot of the AI coding assistants that are out there, and why I think it's a really good opportunity for non-developers. On October 3rd, OpenAI released Canvas, which is a new way of working with ChatGPT to write and code. It says it right there. Now, just looking at the release notes for the document editor, it kind of gives me a Notion vibe. For those of you that didn't know, Notion already has its own AI service, which I am a subscriber of, so it's going to be really interesting to see how this compares to Notion AI. We can see here that we can edit some documents, apparently better collaboration with ChatGPT. That feels kind of misleading because when I think of collaboration, I think of with teams. Collaboration with ChatGPT, you're just using AI to generate the document. I wouldn't say that's collaboration, it's using it. So you can see here that it can make changes to your documents, you can edit it yourself, and then you have a bunch of these different options down the side here, which we're going to get into later. Okay, now, so coding in Canvas. Ultimately, these are the main features for Canvas. You can review your code, you can add logs, add comments, fix bugs, and impressively port to another language. This is something that I find wild, and even though when you maybe copy some code into ChatGPT and say, put this into TypeScript, it can do it, but having it as just a single button without having to write your own prompt out is really impressive. And now we're just getting into the boring bits about graphs. And so before we get started, I must tell you that you have to be a ChatGPT Plus subscriber in order to use this. Yes, I did just pay for ChatGPT Plus just for this video. So to get started, you're going to select your model here, and instead of using ChatGPT 4o, you're going to use GPT-4o with Canvas. So I'm going to do write me an application that, Let's see what it does. Okay, so instantly it's opened this side window, which kind of mimics how the chat features work with, say, GitHub Copilot, with your IDE code editor being the main part of the screen. So this is my entire code base so far, and it's HTML file. So what we can do is we can copy this. Okay, so let's put our code into this, and we're going to open it. I mean, it looks okay, but it's interactive, but I wouldn't say it's that well styled. So this is a great opportunity for us to add some styling to make the menu look, fancy. So essentially it looked awful, right? It didn't look very user friendly. So we want to make it look nicer, copy it, paste it in, and refresh the page. This looks better. Okay, so it's going as like an accordion. I thought it would be different pages, but that works, I guess. Does it work if I add elements to? It does. My only issue is that I can't remove anything from the cart. So add remove buttons to the items in the cart. This is good so far, but it's not really that impressive compared to any of the models. It's near enough exactly the same. I think the power is going to be in these additional functions that they've added, so we'll get on to that. Okay, so now we can remove things. I'd say that's pretty good. You can use this main editor window exactly like a normal editor. So for example, if you wanted to just make a plain text change of Tom's Bakery menu, you can do. You know, you don't need to ask AI to make the change for you, which I haven't seen be made very clear in any of the other videos about Canvas. But I think that it's really important to include that, because you don't just want to interact with an AI model, because that's just like telling a coworker, hey, do this, do that. Whereas actually you want this to be an assistant to you as a developer, not be an external developer that you have to manage and instruct. So as I mentioned, down at the bottom here, we have these options for different functionalities, such as adding comments, adding logs, fixing bugs, porting to a language, and code review. So we're going to click add comments, and it's just going to run through everything. It'd be nice if it added comments to the CSS as well, to just kind of describe what it's going to look like visually instead of having to read the CSS. But I'm sure it's added some comments further down the line, like here, bakery menu items. The next awesome functionality is logs, which is quite a big thing because you want to understand exactly what's happening within your project, especially when you're debugging it as well. You want to make sure that when a button's being clicked, are you actually triggering the function that you're supposed to be triggering? And you can do that with logs. So let's add in a bunch of logs. Now, realistically, there's no point in it going through the CSS and the HTML because it's not going to add any logs, but we will wait. Okay, so it's added a log there. It's also added a few Let's also add a few down here. Let's copy that and paste it in here and see what logs we have. So UI looks exactly the same, which is really good. We don't want the AI to be rewriting the user interface that we're already happy with. We can see it's now adding in the cart item, the total price. It's also logging when we toggle open the different menu categories. There aren't any bugs here that I can really see. Let's see what it means by fixed bugs. Once again, it's going through the entire code. Nothing changed. I mean, if nothing changed, there's no bugs in the code. So let's add in a bug and see if it can detect it. And I wonder if I highlight the section that I want it to debug, if it will do just that section or the entire code base. No, it will do the entire code base, right? Okay, let's see if it picks up on that little bug that we added in. It has fixed it, which is nice. So at least it can recognize bugs. This next functionality is a really big one. We're going to be porting to another language. Let's see what the options are that it gives us. So it will allow us to do PHP, C++, Python, JavaScript, TypeScript, and Java. I mean, TypeScript's pretty self-explanatory, so I want to give it a challenge and potentially do Python. Yeah, let's do Python. It seems like everything. It's kind of done the same thing, but it's just a command line. I was expecting it to be a visual interface. Let's see if we can add it. Okay, so this is what we've got now. I actually like this. Even though it's not entirely the same as what we initially went for, I think it is pretty cool. So we've added it to the cart, comes up with a nice notification. There's no remove button though, and we did add that in the previous version, so it's lost functionality by porting to another language. That was impressive, but it's kind of similar to what other models can do. I think the reason why this stands out as an awesome feature is because it's pre-built into OpenAI Canvas instead of being something that you have to prompt the AI to do. But now that it's been added into OpenAI Canvas, I can imagine that GitHub Copilot and Cursor and the other ones are all going to add the same feature. So we're back onto the HTML, CSS and JavaScript version because I think that it just looks prettier, right? I'm going to show you the final function, which is the code review. So its first suggestion is consider caching the repeated DOM queries like menu, cart items to improve performance, especially if the function is called multiple times. I mean, it's really cool that it's called that out because other models just wouldn't have done that, but you'd think that it would have already pre-built that into the project from the get-go. I don't know why I'm complaining though, because the other models, you would have to do this yourself to try to figure out where the inefficiencies are. So this is actually a really, really, really cool feature. It's taking a very long time. We can see that it's made the change there. I can imagine for a really big application, this is going to take a lot of time, which is not what you want as a developer. Overall, I'd say that OpenAI Canvas is actually a really useful tool, especially for developers that are maybe beginners or people that have never written code ever before. The thing that it is lacking is not being able to run the code within the editor. I've still had to copy all of this code and put it into Visual Studio Code in order to see if it actually works. And that, I think, is the one thing that it's really lacking in order to make this a consumer-friendly product. The other one-click functionalities that have been added to this are really, really cool. And if these were added to GitHub Copilot, I would definitely be using them every day. In fact, this will make our job so much easier because instead of having to prompt engineer, you could just click a button that automatically is preloaded with that functionality. So, final verdict, I like it.